Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. So this is going to be my conclusions and final thoughts. I've got a lot to say on TheVault, the latest collaboration with Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. So if you're interested, stay tuned.
Baby, come back. Any kind of fool could see there was something in everything about you.
First off, I'd like to start off by saying, please excuse the condition of my makeup and such. I've spent the last several hours swatching more of these palettes and my eyes are raw. I call these my writer's notebooks. These are what I do all my notes and these composition books, how I devise my stories. So I sat down and literally had pages and pages of notes on this. It's the first time I've ever done that, but there was so much about these palettes, this collection, the whole thing that just that disturbed me, to be honest with you, that I just had a lot to say. Now, first off, just to start off, for those of you that don't know general information, this is the latest collaboration between Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. She had another one prior, but this is the most recent. This is just the Jaclyn Hill palette, but she also had one prior to this with Morphe that was in their standard plastic packaging. Brianna just popped in here and she'd like her dog to be shown, her new doggie. Bring her here.
She's not exactly new, but...
Come here, Lilies. This is Lily. This is this is Brianna's little precious girl, huh? You a precious girl. She's looking at Brie. She absolutely adores her mommy more than anyone in the entire world. But she is an absolute sweetheart. Say hi, Lily. Say hi, everyone. Say hi, Lilybug. Okay, I'm gonna go back to your mommy. There you go. Thank you.
Bug. Adopt, don't shop. She was a rescue. She was abandoned on the street.
She was a rescue, so she's a sweetheart. We absolutely adore her. She's become a part of our family that quick. Okay, back to this. Sorry about that. This collection comes with 4 palettes. You can purchase them individually for $15 a piece, or you can purchase the entire Vault collection for, I believe, $49 plus tax. And there are a total of 4 palettes that each have a different color theme, a different name, etc., etc. So I'd like to start off with the pros, because there are some good things. And I'm going to be looking down at my notes, you guys, so I'm sorry for that, but I've got a whole lot to say and I don't want to forget it. The packaging is nice on these. The Vault collection itself is really nicely packaged with a sturdy box, and then the individual palettes. The palettes are thin and sturdy cardboard, and it's a nice presentation. I still cannot believe that Jaclyn Hill chose to use this design on here. I think that was I think that was a kind of a slap in the face to Becca, if you ask me, but because for those of you that don't know, basically this here with the round circle that has a name in the middle and the speckles all over is exactly what she did with her champagne collection through Becca. So I thought that was I didn't think that was very professional, because she knew it was going to cause trouble, and it did. Anyways, so the packaging is nice. The price point is great if the shadows are good. The price point's good, but we're going to get into that. It has a decent color range through them. I will say, though, if you have this palette, I don't think you need these. There are several shades in the Vault that are almost identical, and there are several more, and even in the Vault collection there are several colors that are duplicates. I think that she could have done a much better job with curating these palettes and not having duplicate colors in them. Let's talk about the metallic. Because that's what I'm going to start with, because that is, yeah, let me grab one of these out of here real quick. Let's just grab the last one I did, which was the Armed and Gorgeous palette. And if you haven't watched my, I think there's 4 previous videos before this, one swatching each of these palettes on my eyes, and you'll be able to see all the different colors, but you know, this is what the actual palette looks like. Now, speaking on the metallics themselves, I have to say it's probably one of the worst formulas that I've ever worked with. And if you figure the fact that in January I'll be 50 years old, and I've been wearing makeup since I started modeling when I was 13. I've been wearing makeup a long time, and I've been applying makeup to myself for a long time. And these are horrible, the formula of these metallics. Like for instance, in this palette, Classified has already sealed over. There's no getting anything out of that, except for matte. There's no shine. Like when I, watch, rub, 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 rub. And I showed this in the Armed and Gorgeous, but you'll see there's hardly any shine to that at all. Whereas, let me grab one that hasn't sealed over yet, which is Coin, and it actually is sealing over as we speak. But you can see that it has a lot more metallic to it, you know. So you can't apply these with a brush. They don't pick up on a brush at all, which my videos, you know, if you see them, you'll see that. And when you use your finger, they seal over. So Coin is just about completely sealed over now. Classified is completely sealed over. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but if I can get it at the right angle. See that shine area? It's the only area that's actually shining in the shadow there on this one. See it right there? That's where it's sealed. And this one, Coin, is doing that now too. So to say that the metallics in these, they're just, lack of a better term, they're crap. Now, let's go to Bling Boss, which is the one that's supposed to be the purple palette. The only shade in here that's purple is this one. The rest of them, you know, I don't even know how they can classify this as a purple palette. I mean, sure, some of these have some purple in them, but when they're on the eyes, they're more berry. They're not purple, you know. If you take this one out of this palette, you've got a berry palette is what you've got. I mean, that's the only purple. And this is called Gem. This is the, I mean, I'm telling you guys, it's just, when you touch them, they feel, the best way I can describe how these feel is if you've ever touched microfiber, how it has a soft but scratchy feel to it. Okay? That's the purple one. And you can see the pigmentation in them is great. But there's no shine. That's supposed to be a metallic. There's absolutely no shine in them at all. And what's worse is that when, you know, if you're somebody like me, you know, I like wearing some metallics in my crease and blending them out and getting that real nice sheeny look to it. But with these, you can't do that. For one, because they don't blend with shit. They literally stick to the eye like glue. And when you do blend them out, I don't know if I'll be able to even show that here. You can look at my video and see it. But they blend out to a completely different color. Like for instance, in my video where, you know, it's hard to see when I'm not using a brush and I'm using my finger, but this purple color blends out to a hot pink. I mean hot pink. So each one of these metallic shades, unless you're packing it on and then leaving it not touching it, they blend out to their base color. I've never seen anything like it before. Armed and Gorgeous is an example. You know, they're brilliant gold here, and you'd think when they blend out to gold, but they blend out to like a flat bronze. So, and the same thing I saw talking to, you know, I'll talk to you about it in the mattes as well. It's like these shadows, the minute you put them to your eye, the undertone of it, if you will, the base color of it attaches to the eye. Just, you know, boom, it's there. And when you go in and you try and blend it up and out, the top notes of the color fall away and you're left with the undertone. And it is just awful, ugly. Another thing about, I'm in my notes here, I noted that the green metallic, which is the one that I believe is in Dark Magic, I believe, yeah, which I hate the name of that, but the green quote-unquote metallic in here, which is not metallic at all. That blends out to like a blackish gray. Really weird. And the red one in, let's see, what's that one in? Ring the Alarm. And these are just a few of them I'm telling you about. You'll be able to see them in all the swatch videos. This one right here, which is called Bomb Ass. What a tacky name. Anyways, that one blends out to like a pinky orange. And then of course the one that I just told you about, the purple one, blends out to hot pink. So, you know, like I said, they're blending out to their undertones. They're not holding, they're just, the formula is not stable when you put it on the eye, plain and simple. It's not good. Okay, the other thing about the metallics in these is they're incredibly dry, which is really strange because they feel like they're loaded with dimethicones. That's what the formula feels like. It feels, you know, like when I'm applying it with my finger to my eye and it builds up and it gets real thick. It feels as if it has just loads of dimethicone in it, but when you actually touch it, it feels like that. Like I said, it's like microfiber. It's really weird and it's chunky, and so the metallic formula, in my opinion, is not good. Not good at all. Metallics get a big thumb down from me across the board in all 4 palettes. It's a horrible formula. It doesn't wear good, it doesn't apply good, it doesn't blend out good, it doesn't feel good, and it doesn't look good. The shine, when you build them up with your finger, the shine gets really pretty in some of them, not all of them. I mean, this is probably the most unmetallic palette I've ever seen in this formula of these. Some of them are just flat or look like they're at most a satin. Really strange. But on a whole, they're horrible. Okay, now let's move on to the mattes. Jesus. For one thing, from one shadow to the next, they are pressed completely different. It is the weirdest thing. Anyways, like for instance, let's take this Ring the Alarm palette. And I hate to keep referring to my swatch video, but if you watch that, you'll see they're completely different. Some of these shades in here, like for instance Secret, this one down here, is packed so hard in the pan, it's like a rock, and you have to go over it and over it and over it and over it to build it up. Whereas this one out of Dark Magic, like this Temptress down here, you just touch your brush in it and it falls apart. So the consistency of the mattes and the way that they're pressed is not there at all. Secondly, the mattes are incredibly dry. And when I say dry, I mean dry. They are finely milled, yes. They are pigmented, for the most part, yes. But they are so dry. You know how when you finger swatch some matte shadows, they feel creamy and smooth, and you're like, you have that feeling when you touch them. You touch these, and it feels like a fine-grained sandpaper. And I'm not joking. I mean, I'm telling you guys the truth on this. I'm not just over-exaggerating for drama's sake, because that's what everyone wants to say is, oh, you know, if you have something negative to say about a product, you're doing it just for drama's sake. Well, you know what? At almost 50 years old, long past that. Don't care, okay? I'm telling you guys the way it is, and this is the way it is. Also, the same thing that happened with the metallics, the mattes are even worse with blending. Now, not only when you start blending them out till they blend out to their undertone in them, the base color of them, which is completely different from the color in the pan, but almost every single one of them is patchy. It adheres in my crease. Almost every one of these did that. Matter of fact, I think there were maybe 1 or 2, but on the whole, it's horrible. Like I wrote here, they do not blend. They attach to the placement point on the eye, darkening in the crease, and when you attempt to blend or layer them, they go instantly patchy, fall off the lid, and you can't blend it out and get rid of those lines. So, you know, it's, I don't know what it is with these shadows and what they're doing, but it's bad. Now, as an example, I also wrote down more, because I tested every one of these on my eyes. Something I know Jaclyn Hill did not do. I don't care what she says, you know, she's never said she did. She said she's tested every one of them, but she didn't say she tested them on her eye. And Jaclyn likes to talk a lot like that. You know, she makes a generalized statement. She doesn't narrow herself down because she doesn't want to be trapped in by her comments. And while she may be testing every one of them out and have stacks of palettes she's testing out now and all this other stuff, I'm telling you, she didn't put every one of these on her eyes, and this is her collection. I took the time to put every one of these on my eye and try and pack them on, blend them out, everything, so I know how they perform. And as an example, in the, let's see, where is it? The Dark Magic palette here. Again, I'm going off my notes. This Busted, which is this blue one here, dark blue. When you blend that out, it blends out to almost a vibrant teal color. This green one, Inside Job, right there, that blends out to a gray black. And this brown one, Mojo, blends out to a darker black. I mean, it's just, I've never seen anything like it. They do not blend out to the colors they are. They blend out to their undertones. Okay, moving along. So when it comes to the mattes, the matte formula in these palettes, they're horrible. That's all I can say. They're horrible. Like I said, I'm speaking generally on the whole of the palettes. If you watch my individual videos, you will see the few that were in all of these palettes that actually performed. But on the whole, the formula is horrible. It's that simple. Okay, now, a couple things I'd like to talk about that really bothered me about the whole release of this. This product was set for release originally in the summer. They sent it out to several influencers where they received back comments on exactly what I just told you. I mean, these perform exactly as the ones that the influencers had on the videos I've watched. They're experiencing the same problems I am. So Morphe supposedly pulled them, sent them back to production, and according to Jaclyn Hill, it was a pressing problem. Pressing, not formula, pressing, okay? So supposedly they were repressed, and I've got so much about this bothers me. Anyways, let's go on. So then somewhere, I don't know, 4.5, 5 weeks later, they've got these ready to go out for sale again. And we're talking thousands, hundreds of thousands of palettes, okay? Now, first off, something that Morphe or Jaclyn Hill in her video didn't bother to mention was that Becca, which doesn't surprise me when they saw these, Becca issued Morphe a cease and desist letter regarding the use of the design on the packaging. And they demanded that all the packaging be, that the production form be stopped, that all of the packaging be delivered to Becca for destruction, recalled from customers, and stop all advertising on social media. And this is in court papers, so it did happen. Interestingly enough, this was at the same time that Morphe recalled all of these, claiming there was a production issue. Okay? Could be coincidental, but that's just for you, for facts, so you know. Interestingly enough, Morphe responded to this cease and desist by filing suit against Becca. Yeah, that, I guess they decided going on the offense was better than being on the defense. Not the smartest move, but that's my opinion. Okay, so, you know, my biggest thing when, you know, because do I believe that Morphe recalled these and reproduced them? No. I'll be honest with you, I don't. You know, I've said and I've said many times publicly, Morphe could end the speculation on this by doing one of two things. One, requests have been made of Morphe to release the batch codes, the batch code numbers. And for those of you that don't know, each palette, product, cosmetic product, every product in the world when it's produced is produced with a little, in this case it's right there, you can barely see it. Mine, for the record, is as in apple, B as in boy, 070. Now, I know requests have been made to Morphe, because I've seen them, for them to release these batch codes from the original batch that they claim that they've pulled aside and the new batch. That would certainly clear up any issues as to whether or not people have old palettes or new palettes. It was declined. Now, the other thing that, you know, I've said publicly several times in social media that Morphe could do to help stem this question that people have is that Jaclyn Hill, again, sometimes she just talks too much and says too much, in her latest video claimed that Morphe not only took all of these palettes and that they were moved to a completely different warehouse, so they're separate from any of the new palettes. So the old palettes, she claims, are stacked in a warehouse by the thousands, even though in her original video she claimed that they'd been destroyed. Well, in this new video, she claims she was wrong. She thought they'd been destroyed, but they'd just been moved to a different warehouse. How convenient. So, you know, I said, well, you know, an easy way Morphe could clear this up is why not take a picture in that warehouse of all these thousands and thousands of pallets stacked up and release it. Because that way you're going to show people, if, you know, if I see a photo with thousands of just these stacked up, then that's going to make me feel a little more confident that those are the old palettes. And same with if you release the original batch codes. Because what Morphe did is, instead of expending the money to reproduce the actual packaging, they reused all the packaging. And of course mine definitely looks like it's been through the ringer with tape and shit all over it, as I showed you in I think the first video. So in the warehouse, technically all they should have is stacks of these, because they've reused all the packaging. But they haven't done that. Now, the issue I have with Jaclyn claiming that the problem with these palettes was a pressing issue. Those are her words. She has stuck to that from the very beginning. She has said they were not reformulated, they were repressed. But my question is, if these were just repressed, then why is there a new ingredient label on here? Not only has the formula been switched around, but there's been an ingredient added to this, if I remember, was magnesium stearate, which is I think it's something that's used to help with blending, smoothing. It's like a smoothing product. So, you know, if these weren't reformulated, why is there a new ingredient label on here? And as you can see, this is a sticker. Okay? So, if it's just a pressing issue, why are there new ingredients? The other question I have about this, that, you know, the first thing I thought when she said it's a pressing issue, my thoughts instantly went back to this palette. Like I said, sometimes Jaclyn just needs to stop talking. Jaclyn, stop talking. Because you know what? When that palette was in production, and that palette was released for, I believe, $38, which was the highest price point Morphe had released a palette yet, Jaclyn Hill had used the excuse, and if you watch her release video, you will see it. It's still up on her channel, and you can watch it yourself. She talks about how this palette is so unique because every individual color in this palette was pressed differently. And Morphe, in order to get, you know, what they wanted with the pressing on this, Morphe had to spend all this money to buy the special equipment just to press this palette. So that's why we were paying more for this palette, because basically we were paying for the equipment. You know, we were paying towards the equipment that it cost to produce this palette. So what happened to that equipment? If we spent all this money and paid more for this palette because they had to invest in all this special pressing equipment, and this is the same formula as this, then it stands to reason this should be able to be pressed by the same equipment this was. So why is there a pressing problem? Okay, now, the other thing that you know, it's hard to put up a picture of this, but if you have this palette, you'll be able to see it. The other thing that I have in question is that Jaclyn Hill has said so many times, I can't even count, this is the same formula as this. Same identical formula. Same great formula. No, it's not. Not according to Morphe's ingredient label and the ingredient label on this. They are not the same at all. Matter of fact, the only thing these two have directly, no, they don't even have that in common. Because in TheVault, the first two ingredients are now mica and talc. It was talc and mica. The new label says mica first, then talc. This one here, the first ingredient is talc and then mica. Third ingredient in this is dimethicone. Third ingredient in this is kaolin. Fourth ingredient, magnesium stearate. Fourth ingredient, dimethicone. Okay, so you get my point. They're not the same formula. So why is she saying they're the same formula? According to, I'm not making this up, this is what's on their product packaging. I mean, I don't get this. Either Jaclyn Hill doesn't know what she's saying, and she's not educated in her own products, or they just think people are so dumb they'll just take her word and not look at it. I mean, your ingredient labels are on the damn packaging. It's not the same. Okay, now, so we have a situation where they've said that they pulled all these because they were pressed wrong, even though we paid all that money for all that expensive pressing equipment, okay? And then she says it's the same ingredients, same form, same great formula. Can't count how many times I've heard that. It's not. Their own packaging disputes that. So my question is, with a new label on these, that means these were reformulated. Unless they just, now we're going to come out and say they screwed up on the ingredient label. And if that's the case, okay, then they screwed up on the ingredient label. They had to put a new ingredient label on it. This still isn't the same formula as Jaclyn Hill's release prior to this. It's just not. But on top of that, how'd they produce them so fast? Now here's the problem I have with this whole thing, what it gets down to. I don't care if you believe this, that, or the other thing about what she says. Time doesn't lie. And you can't bend time and space for a release. It just can't happen, okay? So what Morphe wants me, an educated consumer, to believe is that in 4 weeks' time, now remember, these are produced in China. These aren't produced in the United States. Even though they had to purchase all this expensive equipment for the original Jaclyn Hill palette there, who knows where that equipment, I guess they got that equipment in China somewhere. Who knows? But they want me to believe that they reproduced all of these, and according to their own label, reformulated. Not just repressed, reformulated. Okay? So they had to take the time to set a different formula. They had to mix that formula. They had to produce all of the palettes, and who knows if they reused the palettes themselves or not, and just pulled all the pans out of them. I don't know. I imagine that's probably not very easy to do, so they probably had to make new palettes on top of that. So you have to produce the packaging itself because they probably didn't have that quantity of packaging on hand. Then they had to press all these, and then they had to set all these. And that's just in China. Okay? Then all of this has to be packaged up together. Okay? And then the whole units have to come from China, be crated up, and be shipped over to the United States. Okay? You with me now? Then, once they're in the United States, then they have to go out to all these different distributors. So they got to go to all the Morphe stores, they've got to go to the Morphe warehouse, they need to go to all the Ulta's warehouse, all the Ulta warehouses, and all the Ulta stores because they were having these in store. And you want me, an educated woman, to believe you did all that in 4 weeks' time? On that note, why is it that if these were all replaced, everything that had been out there had been recalled? You know where I'm going with this one. Why is it that there are so many Ulta employees, and people who work associated with Ulta who say they never received orders to pull the original pallets. That the original pallets, meaning the pallets they originally received that were originally shipped back in June to the stores to be set out for the original release, those pallets were never recalled. And when the pallets were released on the second release, the original pallets were put out. No new pallets had been shipped to the stores. So how is it, unless, I don't know, what did Morphe reps sneak in at nighttime after hours and take all the old pallets and replace them with new ones? But yet they claim that people at Ulta are getting the new pallets, not the old ones. Now, let's get on to a few things Jaclyn Hill had to say, because boy, I'll tell you, you know, in that last video she posted, she says, I talked to Linda and she gave me, I'm paraphrasing here, okay, I'm not quoting, and she gave me free for all to say anything I want. The first thing I thought when I heard her say that was, first off, I was thinking, Jaclyn, girl, PR is not your thing. You know, PR and advertising products maybe, but PR and talking about them just isn't, okay? You need to stop talking. Because first off, when she gets on her channel and says that nobody tells her what to say, that she is there for her subscribers, that she is going to keep it real and keep it honest all the time, no matter what any brand has to say, and then out of the gate in that video, she says, I talked to Linda and she gave me free for all to say whatever I wanted. I'm sorry, why do you need permission, Morphe, to talk about this if you always tell the truth and you don't care what the brand has to say about it? You're contradicting yourself right and left, and it makes me, for one, not trust you. Now, here's another thing that Jaclyn said in her video that, again, you know, to me, trust is the most important thing. If I can't trust what you're saying, and I certainly can't trust what you're selling me, okay? And if I can't trust what you're saying, and I can't trust what you're selling me, then I ain't buying it. Now, I have purchased every single thing Jaclyn has done. I haven't done it because I'm a Jaclyn fanny. I haven't done it because I'm a groupie. I haven't done it for any reason other than to support a young woman in this community who's trying to make something of herself. Period, plain and simple. And every single Jaclyn product that I've purchased multiples of. Multiples. Like I purchased 6 of these to use for giveaways on my channel. I purchased, I think, 8 of the original of these. Gave away, I think, 4 or 5 of them already. You guys saw the other 4 in one of the videos here. I purchased, I think, 6 of her champagne pop, even though it didn't work on my complexion. I gave them away to friends and gave them away on the channel. You know, I mean, so I invest a lot of money behind her word. Well, I'm at the point where I don't trust her word anymore. And one of the reasons is she got on her channel and made this big to-do about how all these people that are complaining that they receive these horrible palettes and they don't blend and yada yada, that she reached out to every single one of them. That's what she said. She reached out to every single one of them. And you know what? Not one of them, except for one, wanted to exchange the palettes. I offered to exchange the palettes and not one of them, except for one, is just the opposite. They all told me it was their mistake, or once they got through the top layer, they worked great and beautiful, great, and oh, good girl, you're doing awesome, girl, you do you. Okay, now I'm going to decipher what she just said there in that statement. And remember, I paraphrased what she said. You want to see exactly what she said? Go watch her video. Matter of fact, if I remember, I'll link it down below because it's very enlightening. If you truly listen to what she's saying as opposed to get, you know, hoo-hoo and Jaclyn Hill, you listen to the words she's saying, it's very, she exposes herself on so many levels. That's why I said she needs to stop talking. What she said in that statement was basically everyone, except for one that complained about these on social media, was doing it for attention. And that when she contacted each and every one of them, that all but one refused her offer to replace the palettes. That she offered to replace all the palettes, and they all refused except for one. And not only did they refuse, but then they turned around and blamed themselves and their own ineptness and their own error or their own lack of using it enough. And now it works, but now it works great now that they've used it more. And then they turned around and complimented her for how she was doing so good. You get the gist of where I'm going with this? I couldn't believe when I heard that. But then let's go on from that, and I'll tell you this, and I have tweets. You can look at my Twitter, and I'll put a few here since everybody needs receipts. Since I first received this palette and opened it up and used it, I've been tweeting about it. I've tweeted that I've had problems with it. I've tweeted, I put out a couple polls. Matter of fact, one of the polls was, if I don't like this product, should I still put it in a giveaway because I purchased them for giveaway? That poll came back, and I'll put that somewhere here. And another one I purchased, should you have to scrape off the top layer in the shadow for it to work? I'll put that poll somewhere here. You can see what other people had to say about it. And I'll tell you this much, Jaclyn Hill never contacted me. Am I not one of the consumers that complained about this palette from the very beginning? I used it the day I received it. And the minute I put it to my eyes, I knew there was a problem. And I hit Twitter. Because I wanted to find out if anybody else was having the problem. I have to admit, I was already suspect, though, in hearing what Jaclyn Hill was saying. Because by now, I know how she twists things. And she does. She is a master at twisting situations, words, people, in my opinion. Remember, this is all my opinion. This isn't fact-based on anything other than fact-based on the shadows of my experience, but this is still all my experience and my opinions. And so I was already suspect about the release time because, you know, I don't need to be in the industry to know that you can't do a whole full production in 4 weeks' time. I mean, companies plan these things a year in advance. And I can understand even if you have to do a reproduction, it still can't be done in 4 weeks. So I was already suspect. But I'll tell you this much, Jaclyn never reached out to me. And after I watched that video, I went on Twitter again and I said, that's funny. Jaclyn Hill says she's reached out to everybody and offered to replace the palettes that they claim didn't work, but she never reached out to me. I tagged her in each one of these. Not only that, anything I put up about the vault, I used the hashtag Jaclyn Hill Vault, as you'll see. So she easily could have found these. To the date I'm recording this video, Jaclyn Hill has not reached out to me and offered to replace these palettes. So that is a lie. Plain and simple. If you're going to put an all stamp on everything, you better damn well make sure you do all. Okay. Now, another issue I have about, again, we're talking about what Jaclyn Hill has said, is having to do with this V2. Now, I talked about this, I covered it briefly at the end of the Armed and Gorgeous video, but I'm going to just go over it again here for those that didn't see that. Now, for those of you that don't know, some of these Vault palettes have come out on the bottom of the palette in one of these corners. It says V2. Clearly, not all the palettes say that. Mine do not. And people were saying, well, you know, they're saying to Morphe, well, you know, you've got a V2 on your palette. That means that's a version 2. I don't have the V2, which means I have the original palettes. Jaclyn Hill, of course, answered back at that one too, and she said the V2 had nothing to do with it being a second production. It was just coincidental that it was that she talked to Linda, and remember I'm paraphrasing, and that Linda Morphe told her, you know, she had to call and get it directly from her because even she was upset thinking this, and, you know, leave it to Jaclyn Hill. She's always upset about something that a brand's done that's made her millions of dollars. But she was instructed that not only was there V2, there was V3, V4, V5, and so on and so forth. Well, first off, I'll tell you this much. There is no V3, 4, 5 that I've seen yet. I've only seen the V2 and the ones like mine that do not have anything. But here's the problem I have with that statement. Companies do things almost ritualistically. They stay true to how they run things, whether it's with codes, whether it's with production value, their quality control, whatever. They stay tried and true. Consistency is very important in any company, because if you don't have consistency, your employees don't know what to expect out of a given situation or how to perform in a given situation. What's consistent, your company will be bankrupt in no time, trust me. That's where this palette comes in. Now, if you guys remember, and I'll have a picture here for you because I know we got to do the receipts. This palette itself, this is the original first run of this palette, meaning it does not have that lacquered nice layer over it. Unfortunately, I purchased the first run so that I could have them for giveaway and stuff, and I didn't get the pretty palettes that have the protective coating on it, so mine's all messed up, of course. They did a second run of these palettes that had that coating on it. You want to know what was stamped on the second run of the palettes? Looky, looky. So, what I'd like to know is how it is that a company that does, I mean, like I said, consistency, normalcy, okay? That's what we're basing this off. Why did they put a V2 on the second run of this, and it meant it was the second version of it, because it had that lacquer coating on it, the UV coating on it. So it meant version 2 of this Jaclyn Hill palette, but it doesn't mean version 2 of this one. That's what you want me to believe? For real? Jaclyn, if you ever see this, God's my witness, honey. I'm all for you. I'm all for young women succeeding in our world, but you got to stop talking. If it doesn't have to do with the pretty colors in here and the release dates, anything else that has to do with business, you just need to keep you need to not make statements on stuff for your own good, for the brand's good. Let them deal with the business side of things. Because another issue that I have a problem with is, since the very beginning where Morphe announced that they were going to be pulling the original run of these and reproducing them, Jaclyn Hill has made this huge deal, just like she did with Becca, remember? You know, when her Jaclyn Hill eyeshadow palette, I think it was around the holiday times, that came out and it was horrible quality. She made this huge deal back then. Go watch her videos, you'll see it. It's almost like she uses the same cut, paste, repeat, just change brand name. She made this huge deal about how wonderful Becca was, that they were pulling this palette because she asked them to, because it wasn't the quality that she expected with her name on it, and they were losing so much money, and blah, blah, blah. Well, I kept quiet about it then. I didn't say anything. I wasn't, you know, who cares? Let people believe if they want to believe her. But, cut, paste, repeat. A few years later, here we go with the Vault collection. And here goes Jaclyn again. This time, Morphe's losing millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. You guys don't know how wonderful it is that they're willing to do this when they're losing millions of dollars. No, they're not. No, they're not. Unless I'm on another planet and Morphe isn't like every other brand out there that has to protect themselves, there's a thing called product liability insurance. Or whatever your insurance, whatever their insurance company labels it as. Like, for instance, product liability insurance protects a company from things like, let's say if somebody has an allergic reaction to a product, or they have inadequate labeling, or they have a product run defect, or what have you. That's where product liability insurance comes in. And like I said, they have different companies, I don't know exactly what their insurance is called, but the fact is, every company, every brand out there, except for maybe some of the smallest indies making stuff in their home, and they probably have some level of it too, depending on how their affordability. Every brand out there has insurance that protects them from liability. Period. Did it cost Morphe some money? I'm sure it did. Everybody has a deductible. But did it cost them millions of dollars? Hell to the no. The only reason I see this, you know, here's the thing, that it's either one way or the other. It can't be both. And I haven't read their insurance policy, so I can't tell you exactly. But having had not only insurance myself, but umbrella insurance, I kind of have a general gist of how they work. And if this genuinely was at the fault of, say, an error in pressing, like they're claiming, remember, that's what both Jaclyn Hill and Morphe are claiming, was an error in pressing. Sorry for my dog in the background. If it was, say, an error in pressing, then that's a product defect. So that would be covered, unless they have some strange exclusion. That should be covered under their product insurance, their product liability insurance, which means for the most part, like anything else, you have a deductible you have to pay, and the rest is absorbed by the insurance company. It's not absorbed by the company. You think companies could have stayed in business if they had the risk all at themselves of producing a product and something goes wrong with it and they have to reproduce it? They'd put them out of business. Are you kidding me? So her sitting there saying that they've lost millions of dollars. You know what? If this is true to what Morphe and Jaclyn Hill say, that this was a pressing problem, and that, let's say, they're blaming this on the factory did something wrong, or there was equipment failure, what have you, not only would Morphe be covered in the loss of all the units and the reproduction of those units, but they could even claim loss of earnings for all the time that this is off the shelf. Again, I don't know their policy specifically. I don't know the coverage limits that they have, but I imagine, being a multi-million-dollar company, that Morphe has some pretty good insurance coverage and a few umbrellas over it. Now, if this was a situation where the formula was bad and it had to be redone, and it was Morphe's fault for providing a bad formula and they had to reformulate it, then yeah, it would be on their shoulders. But according to what they're telling us, this was a production error that happened, not a reformulation. So which is it? If it's a production error, then your insurance should cover it, and they should cover not only your losses of all the product you lost, but by having these off the shelves, that's probably, you see, Jaclyn, like I said, she likes to just kind of roundabout words and not come out. By her saying Morphe lost millions of dollars, yeah, they probably lost millions of dollars in sales. Did they lose millions of dollars because they pulled this off the shelf specifically and they lost that specifically? No, not if they have insurance. But could they have lost millions of dollars for the 4 weeks that this wasn't out selling to the public? Yeah. But again, they should be covered on insurance on that. If they can prove a production issue, problem, then the insurance should not only cover the replacement of the pallets produced properly, but they should cover, Morphe should be able to substantiate how much estimated that they lost. Let's say they've got sales numbers on Jaclyn's previous pallets. That sold for $38. This is selling for $49. So if they calculate, let's say this one, on average for the first 10 weeks or first 4 weeks of its release, sold 150,000 units, and they can prove, they've got several collabs with her that they can prove what her selling power is, then they can prove that, let's say they estimate they'd sell 150,000 units of this times 4 weeks. Ba-boom, insurance, that's what it's for. So you know what, this whole thing, something stinks, okay? Now, when it comes to, this whole back again to the pull date on this, I'm more apt to believe that they pulled this because of the cease and desist than anything. I think, the timing is highly coincidental, that the minute these got in influencers' hands, and that's probably the first time Becca got a true look at the packaging on it and said, yeah, that looks really familiar. That can cause a lot of confusion with consumers, which it can. The minute everyone saw this, the first thing they thought, did you think Morphe the minute you saw this? Or did you think Becca? I thought Becca. So you know what? I'm thinking more than anything that, yeah, this went in influencers' hands. They didn't like it. It was shitty performance. So, and then, ba-boom! All of a sudden, a cease and desist arrives from Becca to Morphe. Morphe pulls it saying, oh, the influencers gave us such a great view on it. We didn't like what we were seeing. We tested the palettes, found there's a production issue with the pressing. We're going back and doing it over just for you guys. Now, I think more likely what happened, if I'm looking at it from a business standpoint, is that Morphe probably received Becca's cease and desist and used the influencers as a perfect cop-out. So rather than saying we have to pull these until we talk to our attorneys and deal with this with Becca and chase Becca off, we're going to pull them because the influencers already have their videos out showing that it's shit. We're going to say there's a production problem. Give us enough time to file suit against Becca. Maybe we can chase them off because, Morphe's grown now, so Morphe's got a little more bite to them. Even though they're going up against not just Becca, but Estee Lauder, since they own Becca now. They think maybe they've got a little more bite, and if they come at them from the offensive, maybe they can chase them back. Because, see, Becca didn't technically file suit against Morphe. They just filed a cease and desist with them. They served them with a cease and desist to stop using this packaging. So, I think what happened is exactly that. I think they used the whole thing, just fell right into place for them. They didn't have to divulge, because Morphe never divulged publicly to anybody that Becca had served them with a cease and desist. I haven't heard anybody from Morphe speak on that. And I haven't heard Jaclyn Hill speak on that. And Jaclyn Hill loves to speak on everything. So I find it highly suspect that they haven't addressed that. I find the dates highly suspect that when they were served with that cease and desist is right around the time that they pulled these palettes and claimed production issue using the influencers as people's reason to see. Because you know what? If Morphe says, oh, found that there's a production issue because of all these wonderful influencers who are honest. They were so honest. Thank you guys for being so honest. You saved our ass. Thank you so much. So then everybody goes and looks at all these influencers' videos, bumping up the Morphe, their views. And of course, they're all Morphe affiliates because they're getting the products. So they're getting a little something out of it too. It's just, it reeks of collusion. I'm sorry. I'm not a dumb gal. And I'm not somebody who buys into a lot of conspiracy theories, but this one reeks of collusion. This just to me seems like a big fat setup. It seems like the influencers and their videos just fell so perfectly into place here. And that I think Morphe saw that as a perfect opportunity to get out of releasing the palettes when they said they would, while they dealt with Becca and then doing their re-release. And they had to wait a certain amount. If this is what happened, they had to wait a certain amount of time. They could have dealt with Becca. Let's say in 2 weeks they were done dealing with Becca and they got it resolved and they chased them back because Becca didn't want to deal with a lawsuit. Well, they damn well know they can't say to the public they got the palettes reproduced and everything within 2 weeks, so they had to buy some more time. They had to put it out there to just on the edge of what is reasonable, of what people would think is reasonable. So, I just don't buy any of it. I don't. I think it reeks of dishonesty. Yeah, I just don't. And, there's a guy out there that, I forget his name. If I remember it, I'll put it up here somewhere. But, he speaks out in the beauty community. What I would like to say, his truth. You know, he's talked about that it's real that people do pay for negative reviews. He's talked about this whole Morphe situation too, and I have to say, I haven't read every post he's put up, but a lot of the posts I've read that he's put up I agree with wholeheartedly. Because from a realistic standpoint, what they did, none of it adds up. It just doesn't. The long and the short of it here is that what it comes down to is I do not believe that, I think personally myself, if I'm looking at all the facts as I know them right now, I'm looking at what I see people's, and I usually don't watch other people's videos when I do reviews. After I used these, the first thing I did was hit YouTube, and I watched one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I have to say that many of the videos I watched were people, I could tell the ones that were, sadly, that were recording a video to get the views because the whole vault thing's blowing up and everything, but they wanted to get positive from Jaclyn and Morphe. I could tell, and the reason I could tell is because when I watched them apply these shadows, they looked like shit on their eyes just like they looked like shit on mine, and yet they either made excuses for it or they continued to pack product on and blend and blend and blend and blend and blend and cut a whole bunch of it out. And even at the end, some of them, their eye looks still looked atrocious. There was one video I watched, I swear to God, she swore she was only using the Ring the Alarm palette. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to, anyways. Well, in the very beginning, it's darkening in her crease the same way it did with mine. It was a transition color. I think she was using the orange. And it was real patchy, and then she applied a brown, and it just got worse and everything. There's a cut. You can see an obvious cut in the video. And when she comes back, she's got a color on her damn eye that's not in the palette at all. She's got like a white cream on the top of her eye. It's not in any of the palettes because even Poof isn't that shade. She used that to completely diffuse and blend out the mess that was there. So what she did is she picked up another shadow and used it to correct the mess that was on her eye. And then she blamed herself for all the mess that was there. So you see, I'm seeing stuff like that. And then I'm also seeing videos where people are being honest. And interestingly enough, they're getting tore apart when they're being honest. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with the fact that I know by putting a video out here where I'm calling all this out that I'm going to get a slew of comments or people tagging me or whatever with a bunch of hatred. It's absolutely asinine. I'm not out here to kiss anybody's ass. I don't mean to sound crude, but I'm not out here to be a benefactor for Morphe or a benefactor for Jaclyn Hill. I've already done my part. I put, what, 6 times 5? I put $300+ in their pocket and however much profit she's making. So you know what? I've done, my due to them is done. But their due to me is not. Not only do I deserve answers, I deserve honesty, and I deserve a product that performs. This doesn't. There's no two ways about it. Watch the videos. I'm not making the shit up. I'm not using glue on my eyelid so they'll stick and do funny things. I'm not using other colors to diffuse them out. What you saw is the reality. I mean, it's just, if I need to, I'll sit down and do one eye look with a Jaclyn Hill 38 pan palette, and then I'll do one look with one of these, and you guys can even see. It is not the same formula. It is not the same anything. And that's above and beyond all the things I see and all the dishonesty that's going out there about the whole release. I do not believe for a minute these packages were that this whole run was reproduced. I think what they did, I think the 4-week time is great to reproduce a small number. And I think that small number they reproduced was V2. I don't think they thought anything of it because it's what they did with this palette. Again, company standard. They put V2 on the second run of this palette, so I don't think they thought anything of putting a V2 on the second run of these. I think they produced just enough to put those out there and put them into the hands of a few select people or, you know, wherever they distributed these V2s to, throw a few out here, a few out here, a few out here, so that there's some good in the mix. And then I think they took the rest of the original release and put it out there. That's what I believe. And I think the 4-week time was enough time to, one, get a lawsuit filed on Becca and try and chase them off or deal with that. And two, to have however X many number of pallets reproduced and with the V2. But of course then people, you know, you consumers are smart. You guys are smart. You saw the V2 on there and started bringing it to Morphe's attention. Oh, then up comes Jaclyn Hill, the mouthpiece. Jaclyn Hill's got to get out there and speak for the brands. Do you know every collaboration that she's done with a brand, she's been the mouthpiece for them? Why is that? Why don't I hear from these brands? Why is it always Jaclyn Hill out there? And you know what the thing is it's the worst thing she could do. It's the worst thing they could do, because she says things that smart people pick up on that don't add up. So let's try and wrap this up with a few other things I have to say. I know I've got a lot here still, but I will tell you this. My confidence in Jaclyn Hill and her ability to be trustworthy has been shattered. She's, you know, I've watched her in every release of every product very closely. And, you know, with the whole, like I said, every single brand that she does business with, there ends up being some kind of debacle. And Becca was a big company when she started working with them. And Morphe was already a big company when she started working with them. But Makeup Geek was still on the rise, if you will. They were getting a lot of attention. They were on a roll. They were going up, up, up. And I saw amazing things for Makeup Geek at the rate they were going. After the debacle with Jaclyn Hill and her, and you know, I've seen all the emails that have been cast around and stuff, and you know, her and you know, I don't want to get into that all, but basically, in my opinion, she was putting him off, wouldn't sign to a contract with him, and unfortunately, and again, this is my opinion, I think Marlena, excited to get this going and excited for the you know, burst that her company was on, I think she went ahead with production on some things, and Jaclyn Hill still wouldn't sign a contract, ended up, you know, long story short, they ended up biting a lot of it because Jaclyn Hill bailed on him and they had invested a lot of money already. And if you notice, you know, everybody says, well, we're not seeing a lot from Makeup Geek lately. We're not seeing a lot. Look at the time when all of a sudden Makeup Geek went quiet. And I think you'll find it was right after that happened with Jaclyn Hill. And I think not only did it take a lot of steam out of Marlena, in terms of just emotionally, but I think it hit her hard financially. And if Jaclyn Hill had any decency about herself, you know, she makes millions of dollars a year. I mean, look how much, go to Social Blade and look how much she makes just off her channel alone. Her channel. That's not including her Morphe code. That's not including any deals she does with brands on the side. That's not including the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars she makes off all the products she's pitched. If I were to pull up her tax return, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Jaclyn Hill's making in the 10 million figure a year. I mean, you know, she's doing good for herself. She's hitting at least 5 million a year. To walk away from a brand that, you know, was going to be there with you and do something with you and just not look back, and then have the absolute audacity to get on your channel and try and defend it. That just made me, I lost all respect for her in that moment. I was already, you know, I'd been questioning her ability to be honest for some time, but at that moment in time when I heard her say that, I lost all respect for her, because you know what? You did something that you shouldn't have done, and, you know, who gives a rat's ass whose fault it was? When it comes down to it, it was yours, because you booked too much, and you ended up costing a company a lot of money, a small company, and again, these are my opinions. And I think she should have done whatever she needed to do to make that up to them, even if that meant doing a collab with them right after she was done with the Morphe deal. Whatever she needed to do, she needed to try and make it up to them. Because you know what? Karma's a bitch. And if you just go out there, take, and you never give back, it will catch up to you. I mean, I think you can see that with her personal life falling apart already. That's what happens. Unfortunately, you know, regardless of what was going on in their relationship and everything, you saw what she put out, and that should tell you a lot about her character, that, you know, she was putting out all this, John and I are so in love, so in love. Oh, we're getting a divorce. Hello? What? So in other words, all that was just lies, just for social media's sake? And then she makes excuses for that, saying, well, I just didn't want you guys knowing, blah, blah. Well, you know what? Here's a clue. If I don't want you guys knowing about my marriage, I'm sure not going to take my husband and parade him in front of everyone and do kissy faces with him on every social media and act like I'm just so ooh-goo-goo in love with him. I just keep him out of the scene. No, that was an excuse. No, what it comes down to, unfortunately, regardless of what his problems were and her problems were personally, a lot of people, when they reach a level of success and money, they change. It's just that simple. And if she wants to believe she's the same gal that married him back so many years ago, then she can live in her fantasy world and I'll live in mine. But I guarantee you, her success had a big, big decision and impact in that marriage. Because all I have to do is look at her channel, and I can tell you that. I mean, I don't need to be living in their house and there with them night and day. I can look at her channel and watch her videos over the last 4 years, and she has gone from night and day. You know, back then was a young gal who just loved makeup and loved her subscribers and loved posting videos, to now a gal who's getting Botox in her nose, or getting fillers in her nose, and has editors and has, you know, the fanciest setup. And I mean, yeah, whatever. And, you know, speaking of her channel, just real, you know, I know this is a long video, I'm sorry you guys, but I got a lot to say. Speaking of her channel, let me ask you guys something. If you created something like this and you had 4 palettes, and your fan base that was feeding all the financial success you were getting was your YouTube channel, would you post videos on it? I can tell you one thing, I sure the hell would. If I was fortunate enough to be able to work with a brand to produce a palette, I would not only be on that, I'd be on that like flies on poopy. I would create a video on each one of these palettes, and then I would create videos using the palettes together, so that, you know, because people, if you produce a video just on this palette and a video just on this palette, people will go buy this palette or this palette to match that look. Create a video then using both of them so you can show how you can intertwine. She did none of that. She posted one video with swatches, she posted another video with a look, and then I saw a thing come up telling me she had another video up. I'm like, oh great, she's doing another video on her vault, let's go look. You know what it was? It was another fucking sales video. You've got, the first thing I thought to myself is, you, excuse my language, but I thought, you have got to be fucking kidding me. She did one look using her vault, and she's up selling again. You know, even she said it in her video. You know, I know in the original video I was talking about earlier where she sat down and had her truth, my truth video. She even said then, you know, I know you guys are getting tired of me pushing Morphe and Morphe this and Morphe that. No, it's not just about Morphe. You don't get it, apparently. You still don't get it. It's not just about Morphe. It's about you selling. Selling, selling, selling. If you are that desperate to have your name on shit and sell it to people, then go operate your own brand. That way you don't have to use your channel as your own personal QVC. Because I'll tell you one thing, I for one am sick and tired of seeing it. It's not just about Morphe, it's about selling. You've always got a new product to sell. And the fact that she would release this collection and not put videos into this collection to not only back up her product that she claims is so incredible, but to show her subscribers some fucking appreciation. Here's a look. Try it with your palette. Do it along with... Oh, no, scrap that idea. We can do that later. People love me so much, I can just keep shoving stuff in their face and they'll take it and buy it. So let's do this big, huge brush collection that's $165. So what? I guess you took all the flack, all the input and the flack from Kylie Cosmetics when she put her natural brush collection out at $300, and so you thought, oh, well, let's cut that in half and chunk a little more. Are you kidding me? Almost $170 for a Morphe brush collection? Girl, you've lost your marbles, on top of the fact that a whole slug of the brushes in there were original Morphe brushes. The same damn ones I have here. The only difference is they had a white thing on them that said JH. Oh, yay. You've lost your marbles. You've lost touch with who you are and what you should be doing. And if your primary interest right now is no longer your YouTube channel, but is in selling, then I suggest you do one of two things. You either get Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics going, which you've been saying was going to go since 2017, I believe, was supposed to start, or you acknowledge that you are the private investor with Morphe, and you get on with sales there. But quit using your YouTube channel as your own personal QVC, because I'm telling you one thing, I don't want to see it. I just don't. You know, it's one thing if somebody like Emily, oh my God, Emily Noel, God bless you, sweetie, love her. Love her. She does the collaboration just recently with Makeup Revolution. It's the first palette that I'm aware of that she's ever done. You open her palette, and you look at it, and her shadows are love, honor, respect, kindness. You open Jaclyn Hill's here, and they're busted, inside job, temptress, poof. Yeah, I think it says a lot about what she thinks of herself. But on top of that, I never would name things like this. Like for instance, in this one, the orange one, she named Agent. I think that is, I think that's done purposefully, and I think it's tacky. Out of all the colors in here, you know, why not name Agent, the green one, Agent, or something? You know, why name the orange? And for those of you wondering what the hell I'm talking about Agent Orange. If you don't know what that is, look it up online. Another one that really ticked me off was in this Dark Magic palette, which I hate the name of, but then again, I'm somebody who knows what dark magic can do and believes in it, and I think it's disgusting. But anyways, she named this color Poof. For those of you that don't know, that is a very derogatory term towards homosexuals. So, you know, and I'm sure Jaclyn's going to come out and say, oh, I didn't do that on purpose. You know, it was just coincidental. Will you tell me, what about that color signifies poof to you? Is there anything about that that looks poof? Out of all the names in this Dark Magic, she has names like Trickery, Temptress, Inside Job. I don't know. I just think it's tacky. But that's me. It's not what I would do if I had the opportunity to put my name on a palette that was going to last for years and years and years for people to see and remember. I wouldn't want to be remembered for using names like Agent on an orange color. But that's me. You know, what it comes down to is I no longer consider Jaclyn Hill an influencer. I consider a salesperson. That's it. She's a mouthpiece for selling. And, you know, you guys, everybody's got their own opinions, but I'm tired of supporting somebody who just doesn't, who for one, I don't trust anymore. I don't trust her anymore. There's too much wrong with what she said, and it doesn't add up. I don't trust her motives behind what she says. I don't believe that she has her subscribers' interest and her consumers' interests at heart. I think her concern is first and foremost herself, And I think her concern is making as much money as she can in as quick a time as she can before her name burns out. When it comes to the palettes, always review things price point comparison to value. If these had good quality shadows in them, they'd be a great value at $15. They don't, so to me they're worthless. These are paperweights to me. They're crap. It's just that simple. Nothing in them is good. And you know, it's the first time in my life I can honestly say that I've received a palette that has shitty mattes and metallics. I mean, metallics are... Every brand says metallics are the easiest to do, and yet somehow they manage to fuck it up. If it were me and I were advising Morphe, honest to God, I would tell them to recall all of these. I would. I would tell them to really truly eat a couple $1 million or whatever it is, because I don't think they lost anything on putting these off, as I explained earlier. I would tell them to recall every single one of these. Unless people, you know, I would tell them to I would advise them to contact their customers they've sold these to and do a poll and find out directly from the consumer, not on social media, not all this other crap, not with Jaclyn Hill involved. Because, you know, a lot of people out there, unfortunately, you know what it's like when you fan somebody. You're not going to come up and tell them that it's shit. That you're just not. I know the reality of that. And Jaclyn Hill, that's the thing that really told me a lot about her in that moment when she said that on the video, that everyone she's contacted, except for one person, basically ended up turning around and telling them it was their fault and her palettes were beautiful and you go girl, you keep up what you're doing. You can't be that stupid. You just can't. First off, people's opinions don't change night and day like that. Every single one of them. You know, it'd be one thing if one here and one there and one here and one there. But if you genuinely contacted all these people and every single one of them but one changed their mind and then turned around to compliment you, that should be a clue. You see? If you're smart, that would be a clue to you that I'm not probably getting an honest opinion here. Because not only has their opinion drastically changed from their first opinion, but they're complimenting me. You can't be that naive. Well, let's see here. Who's somebody she fans on? Beyonce. Are you going to go up to Beyonce and tell her her last song sucked? If her last song, you hated it more than any song she's ever performed in her life, and you had an opportunity to meet her and she said, so what'd you think of the last song? You're going to say it sucked. I'm sorry. No, you're not. Use your brain, girl. I know you got one. I've purchased too many Morphe products to know what I should expect. You guys can look back through my videos. I not only have many, many palettes of theirs I've purchased, but I purchased every single pigment they produce, and I did a swatch video on all of those, and those are beautiful. Now, that is not what's sitting in here. Even though those were pigments, those were metallic. They were a beautiful formula. This is shit. I don't know if they were cutting corners, trying to save even more money by using just shitty ingredients, low-grade ingredients, but I've never felt metallics that are gritty like this. I've never felt mattes that feel like low-grade sandpaper. This is not quality, and it's not good, and it should be taken off the market. And the reason I believe that is because I think Morphe has a lot to lose in this case, because when it comes down to it, all it takes is one really pissed off consumer. One consumer who has an attorney who's willing to look into matters, because there's such a thing in our world called consumer protection laws. And those consumer protection laws are designed to protect the consumer. I don't think Morphe wants to find themselves in a situation where they're in court and they have to provide proof of everything that they've said, where they have to provide proof that they actually did reproduce these palettes, that there was a new production line from Shine It, that they have to provide proof that all the product that was at Ulta was pulled and new product was sent. I mean, there's a lot of things here that can be easily found out under subpoena that I don't think they really want. And all it takes is that one consumer that one attorney, a few minutes in court, seeking class status, and then you got a big mess to deal with. You got a lot of pissed off consumers, and they're, you know, it's not just about, this is an eyeshadow palette, so it's bad. But that's not what this is about, because they've taken this so much further than that. With Jaclyn out there as the mouthpiece, talking repeatedly. Listen to what she says repeatedly. It's almost like, the best way I can describe it is what they do with mind control. Repetition, 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 repetition. So if you listen to the things that Jaclyn Hill has repeatedly stated, how much money Morphe's lost, that's something that she just hounds on constantly. How wonderful Morphe is for pulling these even though they've lost so much money. How she's checked out each of these palettes. How, you know, I mean, listen when she talks and, you know, listen to the things that she repeatedly says. Those are literally the things you need to look at the hardest. Okay? You know, it's just what it comes down to me is that when you make a public statement, you need to be prepared for the fact that there's people out there that are really listening. The cease and desist from Becca, the influencers and their reviews on it, this screams one big deception to me. And what it comes down to and what matters to me, even above that, and, you know, they can, you know, Jaclyn Hill can sit there and say, oh, she's full of shit, you know, that's not truth, blah, blah, blah. This is the truth. Right here. And I took my time to not just swatch these on my arm, because when I swatched them on my arm, they looked even shittier than when I swatched them on my eyes. I took my time, hours and hours. You guys have no idea how much time it took to put each one of those on my eyes, and then blend it out and do all that, and then take it off and put another one on. I mean, just hours I've been sitting in this chair for days on end. I took my time to do what she should have done. That's something Jaclyn should have done. She should have taken these palettes one by one and put them individually on her eye and tried blending them out just like I did. And I think when it comes to this, I think she probably did do that. I think she probably invested a lot of work and a lot of time and her own energy into this palette. I think when it comes to the vaults, I don't think she invested anything except for design and picking the colors. And quite frankly, I don't even believe that most of these were colors that were left over from the Jaclyn Hill palette. I think this is probably just seen as another opportunity to sell. That's what I think. And it's really unfortunate because had she, you know, there's no reason to tell people these are leftover colors from the Jaclyn Hill palette. There's no reason to make this whole big backstory, and that's what makes me not believe it. Because you know what? The more you say things, the more you're trying to convince people of it. And why are you trying to convince people of it if it's your truth? That's the problem I have. And I have heard her say so many times that these are the leftover colors from the Jaclyn Hill 38 palette, that they're the same formula, that they're same everything, they're just colors that were left. I don't believe it. Don't believe it at all. I think that it was a nice little cover story that was created to build off of the hype of this palette. That's what I think. I think they're using consumers' hype of this palette to try and sell this one. And what it comes down to is that everything she said about it in their own documentation is proven as dishonest. This is not the same formula. So unless Jaclyn Hill wants to explain to me how it is that she can sit on camera and say that these are the same great everything as it's in that palette, but they have completely different ingredient list, I'd like to know. And I can't believe I haven't heard one person counter with her with that. But you know what? That's why Jaclyn Hill uses her YouTube channel to be a mouthpiece on, because nobody can say anything back to her and question her directly. I'll tell you one thing. I'd give anything for the opportunity to sit down and literally interview myself head to head with Jaclyn Hill, and you answer these questions for me. I'll make a list of questions that I have and concerns about this, and you answer them. Or I'll send them to you in email and you send back response to me, because I'd like to hear from her answers to these concerns I've brought up. None of it adds up. And what it comes down to is the palettes are the worst quality I've ever seen Morphe produce. Hands down. I can take any one of their other palettes out of my drawer and I won't have problems like this. And you know, people use the standard of the Anastasia subculture palette is it can't be worse than that. These are worse than that. So congratulations on that. You've now put your name on something that in my personal opinion is far worse than the Anastasia palette. So at least one thing's good. You know, if there's other people out there that have palettes like mine, then at least Anastasia won't have to keep hearing it's another subculture. Now they'll get to hear it's another vault. Because as far as I'm concerned, these are shit. So as the final thing I'd like to say, this is my message to Jaclyn Hill in hopes that she will at least hear this part of my video. As Mark Twain once said, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your comments down below. Let me know. Do you have this palette? Are you interested in getting it? What do you think of the videos I've put up? And what do you think of this video? And the primary question I'd like answered from you guys, should I still give these out? The poll I did, pretty much everyone said send them, well, the vast majority I should say said send them back. You know, I purchased these for giveaways. I would very much like to still give them away on my channel, but I'm very concerned about giving away a product that's this bad. I really am. What I'd really like is for Jaclyn Hill to keep her word of what she said on her own channel, and that is replace my palettes so that I have some decent palettes to give out to my subscribers, to give to my daughter, and to use myself. I love you guys, and wherever you're at in the world, I hope life is treating you well. And if you're having struggles, you're beating the bitches back and persevering. And remember, if you have a dream, set your goals, chase it, go after it, don't give up, don't let anyone discourage you. And when you're out in the world, treat those you encounter with love and respect, because they, just like you, have feelings and can be hurt. I love you guys and thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time.